Hello everyone, it's me Alicia. So this was the bracelet that I was telling you about in my last video that I've been working on. Remember when I did a tutorial on these bangles here, the skull bangles? I had told you guys that I really wanted to do skulls and roses together in a bracelet, and I wasn't able to do it. I forgot why. But anyways, I did it now. And I really love how it turned out. This one here has turned out perfectly. The green seed beads are vintage Venetian. They're from Shipwreck Beads. I've done bead hauls in them before, telling you guys how much I love them. And the bronze seed beads are Miyuki 8-ohs. And this has turned out perfectly. It's laying really nice, flat. It's not twisting at all. It just went so well. And then I went to make this one, and it was a total pain in the butt. I took this one apart like 5 times and remade it. The cloisonne beads aren't actually 8mm. I measured them with my bead caliper. This is a bead caliper. I use it to measure beads. If you don't have one of these, you need to get one because it is one of the most important tools for jewelry making. I recommend the digital one. Don't get the one that just slides and you read it, because that one's not accurate. I had one of those, it wasn't accurate, and I was really frustrated by that. Totally drove me crazy. Anyways, I measured the cloisonne beads, and they're not 8mm, because I think cloisonne beads, I believe that they're handmade because it's a metal bead that has glass enameled over top of it. So I'm assuming that they're handmade beads. And if you look at all of them, they're all slightly different. They're not all exactly the same. So I measured them with my caliper, and they were like 7.3mm, 7.5, so the size varied. And so I didn't use, I used one less seed bead. Actually, I used 2 less seed beads. When I went to go surround this bead in this one, I had 1 less on this side and 1 less on that side. And when I did the 8mm, I had to add a bead on each side to go around the bead. So I think that's part of why it's not laying properly. And also, I used 8-oh toho seed beads, the silver ones here, and I think that was also causing it to twist. So I went through all of my toho seed beads, and they're not all exactly uniform, and I picked out the ones that looked more like a czech bead or a miyuki bead, and that did make a very big improvement. It's the best it's ever looked, but it's still not completely flat. It's just twisting just a little bit, but it's not that noticeable, and when it's worn, nobody's going to notice that it's not laying completely flat like this green one is. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up on this because it was very frustrating for me. And by the way, you don't have to have rose beads and skull beads to make this bracelet. I mean, if you're like me and you do want the look, you can go buy them. I will have links for where I bought the rose beads. You can get this entire container of these rose beads. There's 10 of each color for $10. I will leave a link for that down in the description bar, and I will also leave a link for where I bought the skull beads. Now, these skull beads, I think they were 9mm. I got them from AC Moore a couple years ago. These here are smaller, and I preferred these more, because I also wondered too if the skull beads were an issue in this one, because these are smaller than these. They're like, 7.5mm. And then these were bigger than these, so I think that the change in the size is also causing it not to lay flat. So there's like multiple reasons why this one isn't perfect like this one. But anyways, I will leave links for the skull beads, the little ones, and I will leave links for the rose beads down there in the description bar so you guys can go check them out. Now, if you don't want to go buy beads, or if you don't have money to buy the skull and rose beads, you can do this with just all round beads, and it'll look awesome. This one here is made the same way as these two, but what I did is I took these paper beads that I made, I think I made them 2 years ago, and I used them in this bracelet. And these paper beads that I made, they have big holes. I think it's a 1/8 paper bead roller, and I put the lampwork beads there on the ends to cover the hole up, and it looks really good. And I made this into a bangle. It's a soft bangle. There's no clasp, and I'm really happy with how that turned out. I just love all the colors. It's so happy. It's like a party bracelet. It's really fun. And so if you don't have, or you can't get the skull and rose beads, you can use all round beads. You can even do like I did here and use paper beads. Feel free to play around with the design. But if you don't want to have frustration with trying to figure out how many beads you need to go around a bead, then I'm going to tell you what sizes I use so you don't have any frustrations, and also what brands I use. So keep watching for the material list. Here is the list of materials you will need to make a bracelet. You will need 6 feet of 8-pound or 10-pound Fireline. Now I'm using 10-pound because when I was designing this, I had to take it apart and adjust the amount of seed beads and sizes of seed beads that I was using to get the right fit. So if you're using a different size rose and a different size skull bead than I am, and you're trying to adjust it to get it just right, I recommend that you do go with a stronger 8-pound or 10-pound Fireline. 10-pound is the strongest. But if you're not using different sizes, if you're using the same exact sizes that I am, you can actually get away with a 6-pound Fireline, because you won't be taking it apart and putting it back together again if you're using the same sizes and bead counts that I am. So again, you will need 6 feet of Fireline, and if you're doing it the same exact way I am, you could get away with a 6-pound, but if you're going to have to be adjusting your bead counts, you want to do an 8 or 10-pound Fireline. You're also going to need 2 size 10 beading needles. You're going to need, 6 to 8 8mm round beads. So these bracelets here are 8 inches, and I needed 8 of them to do that. If you want a smaller bracelet, smaller than 8 inches, you will have to use probably 6 8mm beads. You're also going to need 4 6 by 8mm skull beads, and remember, I will leave a link down there in the description bar below the video on where you can get them. And you will also need 3 8mm rose beads, and again, I will leave a link down there on where you can get these rose beads. You will also need 11/0 seed beads, and I'm using toho for this bracelet. This one I use toho. This one I use vintage Venetian seed beads. I don't think that Czech seed beads will work, 11/0s will work for this bracelet. You kind of want to stay with tohos and maybe miyuki. Vintage Venetian worked out awesomely if you have some of those. Now you're also going to need 8/0 seed beads, and I recommend to use either miyuki in the 8/0s or Czech in the 8/0s. Now I'm saying Czech in 8/0s, but you don't want Czech in 11/0s. But the Czech in the 8/0s should be fine. You do not want to use toho 8/0s unless you go through them and make sure that they have the flat, like donut shape that the Czech beads have, because all tohos are not exactly the same size. You could do that. That's what I did with these here. I went through them and I picked out the ones that were a donut shape because it works better. And this one here, I'm actually using 2 different colors of 8/0s, but you don't have to. You can do one color like I did with these 2 here. You're also going to need 2 jump rings or split rings. I'm using split rings, and a clasp of your choice, and I'm doing a toggle. I'm doing a toggle for all 3 of these actually. Okay, remember, I put all the links down there in the description bar below this video, and I will also put the material list, and if I have anything else that I need to tell you guys, I will put it down there. So I went ahead and I put my thread onto my needles, and I made sure that my tails were the same length. so I don't have one side that's longer than the other. And I went ahead and I laid my beads out in this pattern, and you want to do the same thing, because if you don't, you'll get distracted by TV or whatever you're doing while you're beading, and you'll accidentally pick up the wrong bead in the pattern. So I laid down my pattern like this, as you can see. And again, this is an 8-inch bracelet. If you want a smaller bracelet, you would probably take away these two 8mm beads, and you would start by picking up a skull like that. So I'm gonna do 8mm beads, and I'm gonna start with half of my clasp here. I already have a split ring on it, so I'm going to pick it up now. I'm going to pick up 5 11/0 seed beads, just like that. I'm going to pass through my split ring and my clasp, and then I'm going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead, and I'm using the silver ones for my cross through beads. And these here, I will use those later as my fill-in beads on the sides. So I just picked up my cross through bead, I put my needles together, I'm going to hold this bead here and pull all the way down and find the center of my thread. I gotta adjust this a little bit more. Okay, there's the center. Right there. And now I have what looks like this. Alright, so the first bead I'm picking up is an 8mm bead. So this means that I need to pick up 4 11/0 seed beads on each side. If you're using a skull bead as your first bead, you will pick up 3 11/0 seed beads on each side, like in this one here, okay? But I'm starting with an 8mm, so I have 4 11/0s on each needle. I'm going to slide those down. I'm picking up my 8mm bead, sliding this down so I can pass through it, just like this, bringing the bead down. I now have what looks like this, okay? And I'm just going to check and make sure that my clasp is still in the middle, and it is. So now I'm going to keep going. Okay, so I will lay this like this on my mat, and on each needle I'm going to pick up 4 11/0 seed beads. Three, 4. 4 11/0s on each side. Okay, I'm going to slide these down, and then I'm going to pick up my cross through bead, which is an 8/0, and I'm going to bring this bead down. And now I have this. Alright, I'm now going to do a skull bead, but I'm going to change the count of my seed beads. So I'm going to do 3 11/0 seed beads, 3 11/0s on each needle, slide these down, and then I'm going to pick up my skull bead, and I'm going to go into the top of the head with my right needle. And I'm going to pass my other needle through this bead, and I'm going to bring it down. So we're crisscrossing through this bead too, pulling it tight. I now have this, okay? I love these colors together, they're so cool. And I'm going to continue by picking up 3 11/0 seed beads on each needle, 3 on each needle, slide those down, pick up my 8/0 seed bead, and cross through that. Bring that down. Okay, now I'm going to do another 8mm, so that means I need 4 8 O's. Not 8 O's, 11 O's. 4 11 O's again. Okay. 4 11 O's on each needle. Slide those down. Pick up the 8mm round. Cross through it. Bring this down. Sorry that I got out of frame there, but you didn't miss anything. I was just pulling my thread down. That's the back. And this is the front. Okay? So you just want to pull that snug, just to make sure there's no thread exposed. It doesn't have to be really tight. And again, I'm going to pick up 4 11 O's on each needle. Okay? Slide these down. I'm going to pick up my 8O bead, cross through that, bring it down. And now the next bead in my pattern to pick up is the rose bead, and I have to make sure that it's sitting upward like my skull is. So I'm going to pick up, for the rose, I'm going to do 3 11 O's on each needle. It's going to be the same as the skull. So 3 on each needle, slide them down, picking up my rose, I'm going to cross through it, and caught on the corner of my cutting mat. Bring that down. Okay? Now that's not going to lay right until we get the other side of it complete. So again, you want to pick up with your needle 3 11 O seed beads on each side. There's my 3. Slide those down. I'm going to pick up my cross through 8 O seed bead and bring this down. Okay. I'm going to make sure that my rose is sitting up just like this. So now we have what looks like this. Okay. I'm going to keep going. If you understand what I'm doing, you can go on without me. You can fast forward. But I just want to go over with you the bead counts some more so you're not confused. Okay, so we just did a rose and we had 3 seed beads on each needle. Now we're going to do an 8mm bead, which means we need 4, so we're increasing the amount again. Okay, 2, 3, 4. So 4 on each needle, slide them down, and then we're picking up the 8mm round, and we're going to cross through this bead. Bring that down, just like that. Pull it snug. Again, we're still on the 8mm round. Surrounding that bead, we have to pick up 4 11 O's on each needle. I wanted to do this with all rounds to see what it was like, and I was going to, and then I thought I should try something different. I should do paper beads. It's been a while since I've weaved with them. I made a starfish with them a while back, so that's why I ended up doing the paper beads instead of the 8mm, because I love these paper beads. They're my favorite, and I really wanted to see what they would look like, and it turned out so cool. But yeah, I wanted to do this with all 8mm. I'm sure it's really nice. So again, I have 4 seed beads on each needle. I'm sliding those down. I'm picking up my 8O seed bead, that's my cross through bead, and bringing this down. Just like that. Okay. And now, I'm going to do the skull bead, and that means I have to decrease my seed bead counts. So I'm going to do 3 11 O's on each needle. Just like that. Slide them down, I'm going to do the skull bead, and I have to make sure that I'm picking it up in the right direction. So the head, the top of my head is on this side, so I picked it up with my right needle. So again, I'm going to pick up the skull bead with my right needle going for the top of the head, and I'm going to crisscross my needles, bring it down, and make sure that his head is facing up. And then I'm going to pick up 3 11-ohs again on each needle, just like that. Bring them down. I'm going to pick up my cross through seed bead and crisscross through it and bring it on down. Okay, just like that. After the skull, I have to do another 8mm. Again, that means that we have to do 4 11-ohs on each needle. Just like that. Pick up my 8mm and cross through here. Pull that snug, and we now have what looks like this. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Just going to do a couple more. I have to close in this hematite 8mm, so I'm going to pick up 4 seed beads on each needle, just like that. Slide them down. Oh, and I have a tip for you guys. I accidentally picked up 1 seed bead, 1 extra than I needed in the weave, and I was going back through filling in the edges. I was almost done, and it was like right at the end, and instead of taking it apart, because I took it apart like 4 times, I took my chain nose pliers and I smashed that seed bead and broke it. And there was a little extra thread there, but it wasn't very much. You know, 11-oh seed beads are very small, so it didn't make a big difference. But if you have that problem, you can smash the seed bead with your pliers and break it, so you don't have to take it apart and do it again. Okay, so now I'm going to do a rose, and this means that I have to decrease my seed bead counts again. So I'm going back to 3 on each needle, just like the skull bead. Sliding those down, I'm picking up my rose bead, crisscrossing through it, and bringing it down. Pull it snug. Picking up my needles again, I'm going to pick up 3 seed beads. 3 11-ohs on each side. Bring those down. I'm going to pick up my 8-oh seed bead and cross through there. Make sure that you have the rose standing straight up. Okay, and pull it snug. And you now have this. It's so cute. I love the colors. Okay, so I'm going to leave you here now. I'm now in the middle of the bracelet. Keep going doing this weave until you have all of your large beads used up, and I'll show you what to do next, okay? Keep going doing this weave and have some fun. Okay, so I finished adding all of my large beads, and I am now right here, exiting out of the 8-oh seed bead. And what I'm going to do is take and pick up 5 11-oh seed beads and the rest of my clasp. I'm going to slide these 5 down past my other needle through all 5 and through the clasp, and I'm going to bring this down. Okay, just like this. And this part is actually a little tricky to get it the right tension. Okay, so I have this. I'm going to take this needle and pass through the 8-oh seed bead. Okay, so I'll hold that, pull that through. I'm going to take the other needle and pass through the 8/0 seed bead. So now I have 2 threads going through the seed beads and through the toggle. I'm going to pull this tight. It's hard to get the tension just right on this. And plus, I also want to reinforce this. And because if I were to just go up now and fill the edges in, I only have 2 thread passes through there, and the other end's going to have 3. So I like to reinforce the ends more, because that's where a piece of jewelry would normally break, would be at the clasp. So I have this right now. I'm making sure this is tight. Okay, before I go any further, I'm going to take one of my needles. I'll take the right one, and I'm going to zoom in some more. Okay, I'm going to take this needle and I'm going to pass back through all of these 11/0 seed beads, and I'm going to hold this between my fingers as I do it so it doesn't loosen up. I went through 2 there. And I have 3 more to go through. Okay, so I'm going to go through all of these. I'm going to come back and pull this one tight. Okay. I have my tail exiting out of here. I'm going to take my needle and pass through these 4 11/0s. Just like that. So now I have a thread path that's going in this direction on the side here, which is what I'm going to have later on. Okay, so now I'm going back to my other thread. This one right here. I'm going to take this needle, go up through these 11/0 seed beads, hold it in place. I got 3 more to pass through. Hold that in place. And now I'm going to pass through these 4, just like I did on the other side. Okay. So I'm going to grab both of my tails, wrap them around my fingers, and pull this tight. Okay. Now I'm going to lay it like this, straighten up my thread and needle, and I'm going to start filling in the edges. Okay, so this one here, when I did this one, and I had these cloisonne beads that were not 8mm, they were like 7.5, 7.3, some of them. What I did is I picked up 3 seed beads on each needle, okay? Then I crossed through the cloisonne bead. And then I picked up 3 again on each side, and then I crossed through my 8/0 seed bead. Now when I went back to fill them in, my gaps were large, and I had to add 2 seed beads instead of 1. So that's what I did for that one there. And this one, if you look at this, I have a very small gap. So I'm only going to need to pick up 1 11/0 seed bead. I'm going to pass my needle through these 3 here, hold this between my fingers, and pull my tail through, and I have this. Now I'm at this gap here, and this is where I put my miyuki seed bead. So I'm picking up my 8/0 miyuki, and I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to pass through these 2, just like that. I'm at the top of my skull. I'm going to pick up 1 11/0, pass through 2 seed beads, Hold that between my fingers and pop that bead in place. And now I'm right here, so I'm going to pick up my 8/0 seed bead, pass through these 3 11/0s, and put that bead there. I'm at the top of my 8mm. I'm picking up 1 11/0, passing through 3, putting one right there. I'm at the gap again between the large beads, so I'm going to pick up an 8/0, pass through 2 seed beads under my rose bead, pull my needle through, and sit that bead right there. So I now have this. Okay, so I need 1 seed bead to go right here where my rose bead's at, and I'm going to pass through 2, and then I'm going to pick up an 8/0. So if you look here, we're actually skipping over 2 seed beads that are right here beside our cross through bead. Again, looking here, there's 2 there that we're skipping over, 2 here we're skipping over. So I just went through these 2 seed beads, I'm skipping over these 2 seed beads, I picked up my 8/0, it's on my needle right now, and I'm going to pass through these 3 11/0s, just like this. Okay? Passing through there, just like that. I'm now at the 8mm bead. I'm going to pick up 1 11/0, and I'm going to take my needle and pass through 3 11/0s. I'm at this gap again. I'm going to pick up an 8/0. I'm going to skip over, focus camera, 2 seed beads, and I'm going to pass through these 2 right here. Okay, I'm at the top of the skull. I'm going to pick up 1 seed bead, and I'm going to pass through these 2. Okay, so now I have this, and I'm going to stop and switch out my threads or my needles because I want to show you what the other side looks like. And I'm not left-handed, but I'm going to try my best. Okay, so exiting out of this seed bead right here, I have to pick up 1 11/0, and I'm going to pass through 3 11/0 seed beads, pull the thread through, and there I have that. I'm going to pick up an 8/0, skip over these 2 11s, and pass through these 2, which I'm not left-handed, so it's really tough. Okay, just like that, popping that bead in place there. So now you can see I have 2 across from each other. So now I'm at the chin of my skull bead, and I'm going to pick up an 11/0, pass through 2 seed beads, and I'm at this gap again here, so I have to pick up an 8/0, and again, be careful that you don't pass through those 2 right there, because I have accidentally done that, and it will cause it to twist. Okay, so I just picked up an 8/0, I'm passing through those 3, skipping over 2, pull that through, and now I have this. Keep on going, picking up an 11/0, passing through these 3. I'm right here at the gap again, so I'm going to pick up an 8/0, skipping over 2 seed beads next to that silver one. I'm going to pass through 2 11s right here. Okay. Again, pick up an 11/0 seed bead, pass through these 2, picking up an 8, skipping over 2, passing through 3. So something else, when we're doing the round bead, we're passing through 3 seed beads. Well, I'll show you. Okay, so I'm picking up my seed bead here, okay? and I'm at the round bead, so I have to pass through I have to pass through 3 11-0 seed beads at the round bead. Okay, so after that I do my 8-0 seed bead. Okay, and this time, because I have less seed beads around the skull bead, I'm passing through 2. So at the round bead I'm passing through 3. At the skull and at the rose bead I passed through 2 seed beads. So I just went through 2 there. I'm picking up another 11 and I'm passing through 2. Picking up my 8-0 and I'm at the round bead. That's what I was talking about. At the round bead means I have to pass through 3. So you have to pay attention to that, okay? So I've now met up to my other thread, and this is what we have so far. It's really cute. I love it so much. So keep going doing this, and like I said, when you go to pick up your bead, you have to remember, I'm right here picking up an 11-0. I have to pass through 3 seed beads. Skip over those 2, put in an 8-0, pass through these 2 11s, put in an 11-0, pass through these 2 11s, skip over those 2 11s, pick up an 8-0, and then pass through these 3. Okay? So keep going doing this weave, and I will come back to you when you get to the other side, okay? Okay, so I finished my bracelet and it looks really good and it's laying flat. Yes! That's what we want. Okay, now I want to show you something. Let's say that you pulled your thread really tight. I'm gonna do it. I'll show you what happens. Okay, I just pulled my thread tight. Do you see what it's doing? It's twisting. Look how it's laying. It's really twisted. That's because my tension is too tight. This might happen to you. So if you have that problem, you just want to pick up your bracelet and pull it like this. You want to go back to the beginning, go like this, and pull it, and it will fix the problem, and it will lay flat. So yeah, there is a tension problem also, but I am really wondering if using the large skulls with this one, and then the small round bead, that's kind of a drastic change in size there, maybe that's why it's also twisting some. It's not that bad. I did really fix it. It's just a slight twist, very slight. But I think that if I used smaller skulls like these, because these are bigger, that it probably would have been even better. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to finish this off. It looks really good. Okay, I'm down here. I have 2 spaces left to fill in. I'm going to take my needles, and I hope I don't have this too loose, because I was really going to town yanking on it there. Okay, I think it's good. I'm going to take my needle and fill this space in right here. I have 1 bead here. I'm going to pass through these 4. I should zoom in. Okay, these 4 11-0s, and while I'm at it, I'm going to pass through those 2 right there. Okay, so I'm actually passing through 6, so through the 4 there and through the 2 that are in my clasp loop. Okay, pulling that through, pop that bead in. I'm going to take this needle, pass through that seed bead there, through my clasp. Now I'm going to pass through these 2 and down through these 4, just like that. Okay, and I'm going to stop right there. Now I have to go to my other needle. I'm just going to flip this upside down. And I have to put a seed bead here. So here's my last one. I'm going to pass through these 4, through these 2, pull this through, pass through this seed bead at the top, and through my clasp, pass through these 2, through these seed beads here. I gotta be careful I don't catch onto that clasp, just like that. I'm gonna take my needle, I'm gonna go all the way up to right here, through these 3, and I'm gonna stop right there in front of that 8/0 seed bead. I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna do the same thing. I need to exit out in front of that 8/0. So right there, through those 4, here I am in front of the 8/0. Okay. Now I'm going to flip this over. Before I start tying knots, I want to check my tension. It's laying really nice. Okay. If yours is still twisting a little bit, you can go in there, you know, and stretch it a little bit so it's laying flat. Now I'm going to tie my knots. I have a needle on this side. And I have a needle on this side. I'm going to tie my knots in front of the 8/0 seed beads, and I'm going to use up all of my thread. This thread will get me all the way to the end here, and I'll snip my thread when I get all the way down here. So I'm going to tie a knot in front of every 8/0 seed bead, and it doesn't take long. You'd think it'd take a long time. It actually goes pretty fast. Okay, and for the beginners, I always show how to finish off your piece. Because if you're new, you know, every piece gets finished off differently. So really, I think that everyone should show in their videos how to finish it off. Because I don't finish every piece the same way. Yes, I tie multiple knots, but there's some places where you won't want to tie a knot because it'll be exposed. So I always like to show how to hide your knots. Okay, so I'm right here in front of this bead. I'm going to take this needle, pass underneath of the bead, make a loop, and I'll go through here twice. And I want my knot to fall right there, okay? Hold that, pull the knot down. I'm going to pass through the 8/0, through all of these 11/0s, through these 2 here. Be careful not to go in through that 11/0. I accidentally did that. But I caught it right before I tied my knot and I backed it out. Okay, so again, right here, right in front of the 8/0. Do not pass through those 2 that are nestled in front of this one. Take the needle, pass through here, make a loop, pass through the loop twice, and bring that knot down. Again, take the needle, pass through the 8/0 and through all of these seed beads. And I noticed that when I did go through this a second time, tying my knots on the side, it really helped with the bracelet. And after you go through it and you tie knots in front of all the 8/0s on the sides, you want to do what we did earlier. You want to take your bracelet and stretch it, okay? Because you may notice that it's not laying straight. It will be flat, but it's not laying straight. So after you tie all your knots, you just want to go back and go like this and wiggle it, okay? It just makes all the beads sit in the right place so it lays flat. So keep going, tying half-hitch knots in front of your 8/0 seed beads, and look how far I've already made it. So it doesn't take very long, so just go all the way down here. I slide my needle all the way down, you know, till the end. Heck, I have that much tail left sometime when I'm tying knots. And I come all the way down here, tying my knots. I just, after this knot here, I pass through there, I trim my thread off. Okay? Make sure you tie knots on this side too after you're done with this side, and then you'll be all done. This is it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like this video, leave me a comment, subscribe if you want to see more of my videos, and like me on Facebook. And don't forget to share pictures of the jewelry you've made from my videos on my Facebook page and follow me on Pinterest. Thanks for watching.